Good to see you too.
Well,
I
I'm
Okay.
excited to present finally this talking workshop because I didn't have the opportunity before. So I hope this can be useful for you and for anyone that can that could see the recording later on. So I am Zaira Castañeda and I work at the Pueblo American School. I teach physics and I'm also the science coordinator department. And well, because I teach science, well, my most of my examples are based on that, but they can be used in general for any other subject. So welcome here this afternoon. So I would like to start with a little warm up. Um, we know this time of the day is kind of hard because we just eat or we're getting hungry or whatever. So I invite you to take some breathings with me. So we're going to breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, breathe out for, hold, and we're going to repeat it 3 times. And the last time we're going to exhale like we are freeing. Okay, so let's start with our breathings. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Hold, release, hold, breathe in again, hold, breathe out. The last one, breathe in, hold, breathe out, hold, and breathe normally. And now I invite you, if you can, to stand up and make some shaking up, or if you want to do some sit-ups or jumping jacks or whatever makes you stretch and feel relaxed and waking up for the moment. Okay, so if you're ready, I am ready, and if you allow me, I'm going to drink a little bit of water so we can refresh our brains. Perfect. So I'm going to start presenting, and then I can share with you my folder so you can have access to the material. So my um my talk/workshop is called For the Love of Teaching, the Love of Learning, and I would like to ask you, what do you think it is about?
well, my first guess is about love, right? The way that you teach, it will be the way that they learn
Mhm.
because you project it and you kind of like share it with others. So that's the way that they can perceive it and accept it.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think that I was thinking, remember, because when we invited everyone to submit proposals, remember our theme was inspiration and something else, I think. And so, but to me, this talks about inspiration, and I've always heard and repeated a phrase that says, "Children don't learn from people they don't like." And I
Mhm.
think that,
Mhm.
do you like all kids? Do you love all kids? Of course, there are times when kids drive you crazy, but I really do think that, if you don't like your kids and you don't like what you're doing and you don't love what you're doing, you shouldn't be doing it, because it's hard for children to develop a love for learning if they don't feel like their teachers have a love for teaching and a love for them,
Mhm.
an
Mhm.
appropriate love for them. I think that's really crucial.
Well, I took the idea of the title from one of the teachers that I admire. It's a teacher from the MIT that teaches, well, that used to taught physics, and he has a book that says for the love of physics. So for the love of physics, he prepared amazing classes for massive classes, and and it was, well, I remember that in an interview he said that for 1 hour of class he had to prepare it for 8 hours. So that means the work that we do is that, right? And we do it because it's our job, but also because we love it. So that's why I wanted to use part of that idea for this workshop. So well, we started, and well, the objective for this talk is to promote the lifelong learning through some instructional techniques and the proposal of an evaluation system based on skills, more on processes than on products. And this is the agenda for today. So we started with our warm up. Then we're going to explore what is the lifelong learning. Then we're going to do some activities, explore some strategies, go to analyze the evaluation system, and then we're going to finish the session. So we started with our physical warm up, but now I want you to do another warm up, which is the mind warm up. I want you to. I'm going to share with you a link for well, if you allow me, I want to take a picture of us first of all. So give me a second. I am going to take a screenshot. So I'm going to say, smile. Ready, set, go. Perfect. And then I'm going to share with you the link for the Jamboard. Give me a second. It's trying, I don't know why. Okay, it was reconnecting. So with this, in this link that I'm sharing with you in the, okay, here it is. The chat. What I want you to do is answer a couple of questions. The first question, well, I'm going to paste, or in the first slide, I'm going to paste our picture. And then in the second slide, you can go to the second slide, and there is a question which is, am I a lifelong learner? Yes, no, why? I don't know. So you can add a sticky note to the slide, and let's see what are your thoughts. While you do that, I am going to add our image from our class. Perfect. Okay. So this is for Adam. Michael, sorry. Yeah. Okay. So Michael, you said that nobody's perfect or all-knowing, and we have to admit what we don't know, that we don't have all the answers. Okay. And always need others to help with leadership. Okay. And Lore, you say, I believe that once you learn something, well, it will stay with you for all your life. Okay, perfect. Now, the next question that I want you to answer is related to this one. It's a reflection on, when did you realize that you like to be a teacher, and why? You can if we can do it more active. So if you want just to write an idea, so we have the evidence here, but if you want to open your mic and tell me, that's fine.
I'll talk. If I keep going to look for my Zoom, and it's not Zoom. Okay, there it is. I was lucky to take, well, in fourth grade, when I was in elementary school, I had a great teacher that just meant everything to me, and that made me start thinking. And then when I was in high school, I took an elementary school teaching technique elective. And honestly, I took it because I thought it would be easy, and I thought it was a good way to not have to take anything hard as a senior in high school. It was kind of me thinking, this is great. This will be a breeze. but I loved it. I loved actually the contact with the students and the teachers and the collegiality um, and so that so I kind of started in fourth grade and then in high school I reconfirmed that.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Lore.
I think that I realized that when I was really a teacher is that when students come back to me and they just tell me how much they value what I did. And then I realized, I said, yeah, well, it was seed on something and it was part of their formation. And I think it's kind of like a seed, no? That's something that you don't know exactly, what's going to grow. But once it shows something, he said, yeah, I think I did it well. And I think it's like an invisible retribution when
Yeah.
when you kind of, and I am in love of the expressions where they start to say, now I got it, or they realize that they just connect
Mhm.
with something. I love that expression. So yeah, I think that's the key where I noticed that I love what I do.
One thing I think we're lucky too. I don't know how long you guys have been at your school there in Puebla, but I think many of us are lucky. And even though I'm not originally from Colombia, I've lived here for 34 years, and so I'm Colombiano, and I know all the people, but I've been able to keep up with people for many, many, many years, and so many of my alumni work at schools, and I know them, and they have children, and I think that also is wonderful. It's kind of like what you're saying, Lord, when people come back and tell you, this I really now I get it, and you really helped me. I think, but we're lucky because we live in countries and cities, and we work at schools that often do have a long lasting tradition within a family, and they stay there and they stay connected. Not all schools and not all teachers have that.
Mhm, mhm.
And I just thought, I realized that I really like it when I'm doing what I hate. you know it's like, for example, evaluation. I'm just like,
Great.
or something that it's really hard and takes time. But then I said, yeah, you know it's part of it.
Uh-huh.
And I know that I love it,
Mhm.
because even though I hate it, I know that I love it, the whole part. So
Yeah.
Challenging things are rewarding. you know
yeah,
Completing challenging tasks do make people feel good. I think that's
yeah.
true.
Well, I want to share with you my moment. I started to teach very young. I was still in college when I needed money, and then the opportunity came up to teach in a school that it was like two doors from my house. It was very tiny school, and I said, "Yeah, I can do it. I need money, and I can do it." So I started, and then, well, obviously that school closed because it was very, very, very small. Then I changed school, and then I had a different job proposal, which was to work in a car dealer. And in that car dealer, I was in charge of the marketing department, which has nothing to do with my profession. I studied electronics. And also, I was in charge of the supervision of the quality processes. So it was a challenge for me because I knew nothing about that. So I had to read and I had to research. Yes, I had to research and I had to learn a lot of things. So I was pretty busy and I was cool with that. But then time passes by and then I start to get bored. And it was super hard for me to wake up in the morning and to go to my job and enjoy it. And that's when I realized that I was missing teaching. And I was reflecting on that, and what I was missing, it was that every day at school was different. um, but also what I realized is that I stopped learning when my curve of learning reached the maximum point and I was not learning more in that job, I got bored. So I needed to feel um, the curiosity of continue be researching and learning and explaining new things. So I had the opportunity to come back to teaching, and from that moment I haven't stopped. And that is something that I really really love, because I like to learn, and because I have to prepare my classes, I have to study again, and I have to find new resources and find new tools to teach. So I realize that I am a lifelong learner, because that's why I love teaching. Yeah, exactly. So we need to keep moving, because we need to prepare students for a future that we don't know, right? So well, after these brief reflections, um, well, even as a teachers, we realize that we are lifelong learners, because we are always preparing, using new tools, adapting, and sometimes we do it in groups, but most of the time, I'm there to say that we do it individually. And there is a feeling that we did it okay. Why do we have the feeling that we did it okay if we don't have another person feedback? How do you know that you prepare well your class? How do you know that you prepare very contextualized and suit lessons? How do you know that?
By the reaction of
Yeah.
students.
Yeah, I think I was going to say student behavior, boredom, yawning, bad behavior, rolling their eyes, things like that are a good sign.
Or
But I
maybe
think,
when, oh, I'm sorry. Or maybe when they feel challenged and you see
Mhm.
them that
Mhm.
they want more.
Yeah, basically, you feel that you did it well because you was curious about something, you research about that, but also you use certain tools that help you to do that research, right? So we're going to start with our first activity about lifelong learning after these reflections. And I want to ask you, what do you see here? Do you know this image? What is this about? What do you know about it? Have you ever seen or watched this image before, Michael?
I think it's something for, isn't it from like the Hubble microscope, the telescopes, one of those
Mm.
mega telescopes from NASA, I think.
Uh-huh. Lore?
Yeah, well, no, I haven't seen that image before, but my guess was something electric.
Okay, exactly. So what we first see is a little of bunch of bright points, and exactly it's the first one of the first images that the James Webb telescope took, and it was released last year on July 12th. And this is an image of the deep field, and this is actually the image of a bunch of galaxies. And if you can see, there are some like these lines that are like swirling.
Mhm.
That is the motion of the galaxies, actually. So because we are seeing that image in delayed, it's like when you're taking a panoramic picture and you're moving while it's taking, so you can appear like elongated or something like that. So some like that effect is happening here. So this is a cluster. It's only a cluster of a set of galaxies. Okay, and this telescope was launched to substitute the Hubble's telescope. So right now, well, after we know a little or some about this image, what I want you to do is go again to the Jamboard, and then the next slide, and the slide 4. I want you to, in 2 minutes, look something about this James Webb telescope in the internet, facts, images, whatever you can find, and paste it here. So you have only 2 minutes, so we can move with the strategies. Maybe you can find pictures of comparing the Hubble telescope with the images of the Hubble telescope with the James Webb telescope. Mhm. I'm adding something since we are a few. So, okay, so here we have some information. So the exercise is to make a quick research. So basically, the Hubble, this James Webb telescope, as I told you, was launched to substitute the Hubble. And I added, for example, nice. I was going to tell you that. Um, as you can see, the two images, one is in higher resolution. So all the information that we got from the Hubble, now it's compared with the information that we are getting from the James Webb telescope. And because we're getting more resolution, we're getting more details of what is in those spots of the outer space. And we can detect galaxies that form after the Big Bang. It works with infrared technology. Exactly, it can take pictures 15 light years away, 1,000 is mhm. So we can explore exoplanets, etc. So we have a lot of information here, right? And now I want you to think, if you're teaching a class tomorrow, how could you relate your class with this image? How can you trigger? How can you trigger curiosity by using this image in one of your classes? Lorena?
Um, I even just posted because I teach environmental science. So I read just in the Guardian where it says that it looks like a cherry blossom. So I love that comparison because cherry blossom is one of my favorite flowers.
Mm-hmm.
It's just part of nature. You don't know, just like a world,
Mm-hmm.
to explore.
Okay.
I was just thinking, and I guess first I was thinking about teachers. What this image says is, you you can't teach this year like you taught last year because there's so much more, and in science even more so. And so every day there's new things you find out, and I think with students, you also have to encourage them to always question and not challenge in a negative, disrespectful manner, but I think they should always be asking questions and being curious and wanting more and wanting to be able to maybe prove the teacher wrong in a sense of they learned something that maybe the teacher didn't know. That's great, and And I think what James Webb, I was actually there in DC recently, and we took a tour of this of where it is, and it was really amazing. But I think that the kids have to just think that things are changing. We're learning so much daily, and now with everything that's available, with internet, it's just curiosity never stops. Should never stop.
Yeah, I was thinking, for example, that you can use anything that is happening and adapt it to any class. So I teach science, and of course this is very appropriate for my class, right? But I was thinking, for example, in literature, what do we know in literature about the universe, about galaxies? What are some books or readings or poems that we can go and we can use this image as an excuse to teach that, right? We can also um, explore informative texts, for example, I don't know, history, economics. There's a lot of fields that are involved that we can explore through something. So we are triggering the curiosity through something that they don't expect, right? So, and one of the things in order to know or become a lifelong learner is to have curiosity. So I have to place a famous quote here. And the famous quote is, En la vida uno tiene que ser curioso. Or in English, in life one has to be curious. And this famous quote was said by my grandma. So my grandma was a woman that always said this, that you have to be curious. You have to find a way to do it, but you have to find a way to do it well, not only to do it like that. So she was not well, she didn't have the opportunity to study upper grade um, levels, so she has the basic, but she has a very interesting life because she was curious, because she was learning, because even she was a nurse and she didn't have the proper or the formal education to do that, but because she was curious, she learned fast. She was a lifelong learner. So that was her motto in life. And she always said that to us, that we have to be curious. So, what is lifelong learning and why is important? Well, lifelong learning is a skill that can be developed in classroom when we encourage students' curiosity, creativity, and independence. And right now, with only one image, we are exploring or triggering our curiosity. It's important to be a lifelong learner because, as I said in the beginning, we are living in an ever changing world. So we don't know what is going to be needed in the next years. But what we know is that we have to have the ability to adapt and to interact with those changes. So these are the skills that the UNESCO is proposing that the students must have. So, and besides that, we also have the approaches to learning taken from the International Baccalaureate, which are the thinking skills, the social skills, the management skill, communication and research skills. So we can base our teaching in this is to teach these skills with these approaches. So let's do a quick exercise. So I'm going to present you a text, but we are going to work with this text in different moments. So I'm going to share with you in the chat the link where you can find the PDF to read this. And at first, what we have to do is quickly look at the title and do a first reading, like at a glance, because you're only going to have 30 seconds to do that. So go to the folder. I'm going to share with you the link for the folder and open the document. When you are ready, you let me know. So I start my 30 seconds and you have only 30 seconds to see what can you see and what can you get from there. Okay. So let me know if you
The one that says read the document to read, right? Not the presentation.
the one that says reading.
Okay.
The PDF that says reading. So
Okay.
when you open the document and you're ready, I say go, and you have 30 seconds. Ready, Michael, Lore?
Ready.
Ready, go. Stop. Time over. Now, tell me, please. What you just did was skimming, which is a reading technique to read quickly to get a general idea of meaning, right? So, what was this the text about?
I
Sound.
just focused on the table of contents, and I thought I only have 30 seconds, so it's quality, characteristics, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna figure out what it says it's about, because I know in 30 seconds I couldn't actually read it.
Okay, so it's about sound, right?
Mhm.
Right.
And what did you get in those 30 seconds? Which words? What did you see in those pages?
All the characteristics.
Uh-huh.
And I just read where it says the Doppler effect or the shock waves, but
Okay.
I read it right at the top, and like the waves, sound travel.
Okay.
I saw the word vibration. I was when I saw the
Uh-huh.
types of sound, and they said vibrations, and that kind of was thinking in my mind.
Okay, perfect. So now you have certain words in your mind. Are these words keywords? Are they important? Are we able to know that in those 30 seconds, or we need a little bit to dig a little bit more?
I I think
Mm,
I need to dig a little bit more.
yeah.
Okay, so now the next part, so this first part very, very quickly give us the idea what is the text about, right? So the next part, what we are going to do is to catch what is the purpose of the reading and what are some chunks of information. So you are going to, I'm going to short a little bit the time. So we're going to have 3 minutes, okay? So go in 3 minutes, go to the text and check if the words that you identify as keywords in the first glance are the same that you now consider after the reading, the keywords or the ideas.
Okay.
Okay, time. So now what did you get?
A lot more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you share what this the reading was about?
Yeah, and I went through the whole thing and kind of wrote down the key words and key phrases, vibrations, frequency, speed, wavelength, distance, and it varies, depends on the material, loudness and pitch. But then I went back to the beginning and I looked at the two examples about a swimmer hearing underneath the water, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. And then the putting your ear on the floor, and then the sentence that caught my eye the most, and I wrote down, was that sound requires matter, and sound in the absence of matter really isn't sound.
Mhm, mhm.
And so I thought that was interesting. So it helped me to go through quickly and look at the words, and then go back and kind of start to read to see if there was something that stuck to me.
Perfect. Lore?
Yeah, well, I detected, I just imagine how sound travels. First, it depends on the source, then, the energy that is being transferred, and it also, how it is detected depends on if it's like a microphone or an ear or an ear, right? And then I said, how our ear is perfectly shaped in order to really detect the sound. And then I also got like into the materials and how energy is so important because it depends on the speed that it goes through, is the way that we captured it. So I just also read for like from the swimming. I just got into a swim just a few hours ago, and then I said, how I wish to have like some music, and how can music be traveling through the water. No, I thought it was like different, but it just started to question me, how I sometimes we take for granted, no, so something that it's like really perfect.
Okay, so in this second reading, what we did basically was scanning. So we go into to find specific facts like concepts, like definitions, like relations, but also, and this is very important, to identify things that we don't understand. Because when we find those things, is when we have to research. We can ask GPT to tell us the answer, for example, and to go deeper in the things that we don't understand. So the last part to learn something is to write and retrieve these ideas, these questions, these doubts, and then we can recall, we can explain, and also we can apply it. So with in an exercise with our students, it's in order to have the ability to become a lifelong learner. Well, it's to to have the ability to learn new things by your own. So how can you do that? Well, by reading sometimes the information, right? So but when we read, we can find that there are words that we don't understand, that there are examples, for example. So we have to go and look for more information. When we are going to look for more information, and we're getting that new pieces of data, we can explain now the effect. Now, so you were explaining to me how sound is traveling and some of the applications, right? And some of your desires too. So when we do that, when we are able to understand the information that we get, but also when we're able to explain it, is when we are really learning the what we read, or the subject, or whatever the topic, right? So these are the 6 steps to learn something new. Okay, sometimes it's not necessarily to be a reading, but it can be something that you hear, something that you're attending to, right? And this is these two tools that I just show you to trigger your curiosity through something that you don't know, like the image from the telescope. And now this reading that you were not expecting, and you were not expecting a reading about science, then it helps a lot to discover the way you learn. And once you discover the way you learn, you start to become a lifelong learner. Other strategies that I would like to mention is there are a lot of strategies that we already use, but sometimes we don't classify them or label them into a category. Like right now, they are useful for a lifelong learner. So, for example, we have the U-learning. The U-learning is the ubiquitous learning, which basically means that you can learn, as in the movie, everything everywhere all at once. So because we have um, these tools at our hands that we can use, for example, to learn language, so we have an application and we can go through the exercises at our own pace. We can have access to many texts. We can use Kindle. We also can hear podcasts, but we also can learn through online courses like in Domestika. You can learn from knitting to cooking to astrophysics or whatever you want at your pace. So that is the ubiquitous learning about. Then we have other strategy, which is the flipped classroom, which centers basically that the learning processes happen outside the classroom. Obviously, there are processes that are guided by the teacher with questions, with activities, with tasks. And then in the classroom, it supported all that process with experiences based on the processes they followed before. And we use this a lot, for example, with our e-learning classes, right? Because we needed to squeeze as much as we can the time that we have online, right? So right now we did a little example of the little classroom with the research that you did about the Webb's telescope, for example. So even if you didn't know, we were working on that. Another strategy could be gamification. And sometimes we misunderstand gamification as playing games with the students. It's not necessarily that, but it's to apply the game design elements to an educational setting. It means that in a game there are rules, there are rewards for completing tasks. So you can have a class structure to complete tasks and getting rewards in order to achieve a goal. Right now, for example, I have been assigning you a star each time you participate. So if we were more people in this session, we can maybe I don't know, make give a reward to the student with more participations, for example, right? So this uh, this strategy this strategy is the one that we call gamification. And it's not necessarily, as I say, a game it's per se. So we can go through elements like action, which are the objectives, like there is social interaction, like a competition. There is mastery when they're, for example, the scoring is when they master something. The awards is the achievements that the students have when they are immersed. Right now, for example, you were immersed in talking about the telescope, and you were talking about where is it there, is it here. So you are immersed in the topic, so it's kind of a role playing. And also the creativity, when you were thinking how to use that image in your class, you're using your creativity as teacher. So we can also ask that for our students. And other strategy is differentiated learning. And now I want you to hear this. What do you think is this?
Air blowing through it.
Okay, air blowing. It looks like a old refrigerator.
Yeah, that's what I was
Was
saying. Like
like
like an
an
appliance.
appliance. Uh-huh. Okay. Someone to stop it because it repeats. Well, the thing is that this is the sound of the sun. So how is this possible? How can the sun make a sound now that we read about the sun? What do you think, or how do you know, or how is this possible that we are hearing, or how is the sun is producing sound? Lore?
You know, Sarah, I just link it with the article where it says, because I just learned today the difference between ultrasonic and supersonic. And what you say, everything comes at once at the you know, everything happens at the moment. So yeah, you know, like the sun is ultrasonic and supersonic at the same time.
Aha. And we cannot hear that with our bare ears. We need instruments that capture these electromagnetic waves that are traveling through the space, and they translate these waves into sound. So that's why we can hear the sound. So right now I presented to you an audio, and I catch your attention with this audio. So we can use all our senses in order to make differentiated learning. So, for example, the first moment we move, we make some we shake up, we make some breathing. So we're physically doing something. Then we look at an image. Now you're hearing something. Now with the smell and the taste, you can smell something at the laboratory. I don't know. Or depending on the class, you can taste it, you cannot taste it, or I don't know. We can use our senses in order to involve our students on what we're studying. So we are using differentiated learning by presenting the objectives, the things that we want to learn in a different ways. Now the self-directed learning is it's an individual initiative. So it's when we establish that we want to learn something, and here we have the cycle. When we set a goal, we make a plan, we learn, we show, and we reflect. And here, surprise, we do that a lot as a teachers. So when we are studying or preparing our classes, we are doing all these things in order to then present it to our students. And when our students are preparing, for example, a presentation or something that they have to speak of, they are following this, so they are self-directing their learning. And finally, the collaborative learning. Again, the collaborative learning help us to improve our ideas, to address misunderstanding, clarify misconceptions, because we all together are building our knowledge. And what you just did here, what you just did here with all the information for the James Webb Telescope was collaborative work. So, because you were adding information, you were collaborating to have more information about something. So these are some of the strategies that we can use in order to trigger or to develop the lifelong learning. And also it has to go with an appropriate system of evaluation. And the system of evaluation that I'm proposing is based on processes rather than on products. Sometimes we receive an essay and we say, oh yeah, you did it, you have a 10 because you give me the paper. But it's not that, it's what process you follow to write what you wrote. So in our case, and Lore is familiar with this because we were using a lot in the department, is that we started an evaluation system based on these skills. So we first set the levels of achievement, which were from unacceptable to outstanding. And what is that? So unacceptable is a student that is not involved and is not interested in acquiring new skills. So it's basically not there. And then, for example, a basic level is when the student understands, well, observes others, how they perform the tasks, but he needs a lot of help. He needs a lot of assistance from the teacher. Acceptable is when this student is a learner, becomes a learner, and can copy others' performance. Good is when the student can demonstrate the skill on demand and needs minimal teacher's assistance. Sorry, and outstanding is when the student can explain to others or can use that skill and to apply it in real life situations. I pardon, sorry, I was not um sharing this. Well, I was saying that it's more based on processes and products, and then the levels of achievement. So we started to evaluate in this way, and it was at first it was very difficult for students to understand us what we wanted, but then it was easier because then they knew that in order to get an outstanding grade, they have to prove or to show that they understand and they have to teach others, for example, or they have to be independent. Maybe they don't want to teach others, but they want to be in the level good, so at least there they can apply what we were telling them to do. And we also produce a rubric, and the rubric is based on the uh, approaches to learning skills, which were thinking, research, communication, self-management, and the mastery. So we describe what ability we wanted to see in each of these elements in order to evaluate them in these levels. So, for example, if we want them to be self managed and engaged, so what we want to know is the ability to set goals, manage the task effectively, manage your state of mind, self motivation, resilience, mindfulness, class participation, interest, and creativity. So, how can we assess that? Through these levels. How independent you are in your creativity, how involved you are in the activities, how much you participate, for example. And then the participation is not a quantity of participations, but the quality of the participations. So, in conclusion, uh, through this session, we have a cover and activation, physical and of our previous knowledge. We have trigger curiosity. We have go through our creativity by thinking what can we apply or how can we apply what we're learning. We have seen strategies and evaluation, and in the addition of all this, we are going to become independent in our learning. And these things are the basic things to become or to continuously um, feed our ability to lifelong learn. So, by implementing a different evaluation system, students can care more about what they are learning than only getting a number for their report cards. So at the end, obviously that number reflects what they know. But when we integrate these strategies, we expect that the students to be more independent, more critical about what they're learning, about the sources where they are getting the information, for example, and we are fostering the desire to learn and achieve new skills. And finally, well, students can explain their learning process and generalize these skills to other areas of knowledge. So as you can see, I use my science examples, but you can generalize them to other classes and to other fields. So I don't know if you have any comments or final thoughts.
Yes, it's interesting. The before I left the SFM in Monterey, we spent I guess 3 years moving towards a standards-based grading system, and we threw out everything. We threw out the 100-point scale. We threw out averaging. We moved to something very similar to what you guys have. It was a 4-point scale. The first time we started with numbers, and then we got rid of the numbers because then kids were still thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, and we came up with qualifiers, much very similar to yours. It was hard for everybody. I mean, the kids had a problem with it, the teachers, the parents. I mean, I think everyone agreed. Well, parents didn't agree, but and the students were just, we had to convince them that they were still going to get into the great colleges and universities, and they were still going to, be successful. But when everyone agreed with the idea that we're here for learning, not for a grade, not for and what happens to the child that gets a 22 on a big test, well, then he can't pass. Whereas he or she should be able to continue showing their ability to understand something. And even if it started off as a 22, it could easily end up as outstanding. There's no reason why not. And so it reminds me of that. And it also reminds me of the need for schools to work together,
Mhm.
because how wonderful for you guys at Colegio Americano de Puebla to talk with the people from ASFM about challenges and difficulties and what did you try and what did you do? Because we kept telling our parents when they thought we were crazy, we kept saying, we're 20 years behind. Many schools have done this a long time ago. And this is where we're going. One of the things that I used, and I'm not sure if you guys have seen that, I'm sure you have, that Tec de Monterrey is actually in their new Tec 21 system, they actually are doing something similar. And so when I was able to show the parents that Tec de Monterrey also had a different thought process on grades and grading, that helped. Now they still do have an average and things like that, but um, it's hard. So I congratulate you all because it's a great step forward. It's a big step forward. It makes more sense for learning more than anything. Um, and to go back to your title about the love of teaching, the love of learning, when you're not so worried about the stupid grade point average and the exam score, then you really can focus on the love of teaching and the love of learning. So that's wonderful.
Yeah. Lore, final thoughts?
Well, it really is a big challenge to break up like the paradigms or the patterns that we had, um, you know through our education. And what I just realized is that this um, this way of evaluating is that as a teacher we're all the time evaluating.
Mhm.
Our evaluation is not based only on just test or in a specific thing. The evaluation is all the time, because like Saida said, and it becomes a life learning, a lifelong learning process. And they, not only for them but also for us. And that's a big way in which you can impact their lives. Because as Saida said, it creates patterns of curiosity, it creates patterns of questioning. And so that's what you really want, right?
Mhm.
Like your grandma said, you know
Mhm. Be curious.
be curious.
Yeah. Well, I could close our session by saying that it requires a lot of love to be a teacher, because it requires a lot of energy. We need to have this expansion energy to reach all of our students, whether they are in the mood of not of learning. We have to be in the mood.
Mhm.
So as we love learn, we're going to love teach, and then our students are going to love learn also. So I go back to the title, as Michael said, no, for the love of teaching, the love of learning. So because if you love to teach, if you love what you do, you are going to spread that love, and you're going to
Of course.
spread that passion to the students, and they will come back many years later to thank you or not, but they are going to remember you. And we are um, inserting in their minds that they are able to do whatever they want, and our subjects are merely the excuse to do that. So, well, thank you very much for joining this session. I hope it was useful,
Yeah.
and I am at
Well,
your
thank you very much, Saida and Lorde. And the last thing I'll mention is because I think it's related. Many years ago, when I was working in Bogota, we there was a standardized kind of teach student evaluation of teachers document that we were using. And we didn't ask for the results. We didn't tell people, it was just for the teacher, but we did standardize it. And one of the questions, I forget the exact wording, but one of the questions said something about, do your students see you as a friend? And we had several teachers challenge that question. And they said, our kids shouldn't be our friends, and there has to be lines, and we don't believe that teaching is about friendship. I forget what they said, and it was a small group. So we listened. I was the assistant superintendent, and I was in charge of academics. And so what we did is we said, let's define the word friend. So we all looked up the word friend, and we started looking at the characteristics of a friend. You can imagine it's empathy, mutual respect, politeness, understanding, relationships. So it was all things. And so then my response was, what from that list, what is it that you disagree with? Because I think that goes back to what we've been talking about. You talked about a little bit. I think that, and what we said at the beginning, kids don't learn from people they don't like. And as a teacher, if you don't have a friendship with your students based on mutual respect and positive empathy and relationships, then you're not going to get anywhere, and they're not going to learn from you. And of course, I do know that there are boundaries, and there's a difference between an appropriate classroom academic teacher student friendship and an inappropriate friendship. Of course, I understand that, and that's why child protection policies are so crucial. But I guess think that this whole session today reminds me a lot about that. It reminds me about the importance of relationships. It reminds me about the importance of teachers in the lives of children. And Saida, you and I were talking about it before Loretta joined us at the beginning, how wonderful it is to be back face to face. And I think although the pandemic taught us many things, and there were things from the pandemic that maybe we liked, but the building of relationships and friendships with your children so that you can instill the motivation you're talking about is much easier when you have them in your classroom. So thank you very much for sharing. Please be sure to send me the recording. I will post it on our website.
Thank you.
Lorena, thank you for joining us tonight. And we're very grateful. Thank you.
It was very nice to meet you, Michael.
Likewise.
Thank you, Sarah. Bravo.
Thank you.
Feliz noche, que descansen. Okay.
Gracias, igualmente.
Listo. Bye-bye.
Bye.